We interrupt this program to bring you a special report.
In breaking news today, a multi-million-dollar couple has been left stunned after being asked to vacate their already vacant premises. Wait, what? I think there's something wrong with the teleprompter. You know, I'm not one to gloat over the misfortune of others, but that feeling that you get when you see someone bad or someone who behaves badly, who hurts others, finally being made to face the consequences. That's not gloating. That's justice. And speaking of consequences, boy, has 2023 been the year of consequences for Meghan and Harry, or what? First, they lost their credibility, or what little they had of it to begin with. Then I would say they lost their dignity, but they have none, so... And then, only very recently, they've lost what little they had remaining of their reputation or their popularity. I mean, even Prince Andrew is more liked, and he's been accused of horrific things. And speaking of Prince Andrew, it appears that he's been given something that should only belong to Meghan and Harry, even if they never use it. Yes, I'm talking about Frogmore Cottage, of course, which I'm sure a lot of you have heard of by now. Meghan and Harry's old residence in the UK, the one that they used to live in, the one that they apparently called their forever home. I had no idea forever was a couple of years, but we all know Meghan and Harry operate on an entirely different sphere than the rest of us. In an attempt to reduce expenses, Prince Andrew has been asked to vacate Royal Lodge, which boasts 30 bedrooms. I mean, take that, Meghan and Harry, with your 16 bathrooms. And to downsize instead to Frogmore Cottage, which stands vacant. News of this has left Meghan and Harry stunned, and at least two other unnamed, they're always unnamed, aren't they, royals have been left appalled over this cruel punishment, as Omid Scobie described this latest act in an article that he wrote, which pretty much screams Meghan and Harry when you read through it. What's really confusing to me is, didn't we watch them go through this entire dramatic, emotional packing sequence in their Netflix floppy series? Didn't you leave anyway? Didn't you pack up and move permanently? So what's all the fuss about? Assuming Omid Scobie is still their mouthpiece after Prince Harry practically threw him under the bus in his own book, we can tell from the article that he wrote that not only are Meghan and Harry stunned, but they're livid over this latest development, which isn't even that much of a new development, by the way, because apparently this eviction notice was issued a few days after the release of Spare, leading many to believe that this was an act of retaliation on the part of King Charles. A conclusion echoed in Omid's article, which, as you may have already guessed by now, is yet another victimhood fest mixed in with a very healthy dose of vitriolic attacks against the current king. Omid just goes straight for the jugular right from the get-go, because what he does is essentially link this loss with their current security and privacy battle with the government, where they claim, oh, we're not safe in the UK, and now you've gotten rid of our only safe haven. Yeah, because as if they wouldn't have a room or a wing in one of the many palaces should they ever decide to visit the UK again. To me, it's just another repetition of the Oprah interview. A couple of billionaires crying and whinging, oh, feel sorry for us, while the rest of you struggle to even survive because we were stripped of security even though we can afford our own security. Feel sorry for our dangerous and dire situation, which we have contributed to significantly ourselves by comparing members of the Taliban to chess pieces. Feel sorry for us for living in a sprawling 16-bathroom mansion because we've been asked to vacate an already vacant property in a country that we have no intention of living in. Do you see the parallels between this current complaint fest and the Oprah interview? Once out of touch, always out of touch. And this is just further proof that these people never learn from their mistakes because they never accept that they've ever committed a mistake to begin with. They actually think that they're entitled to this complaining. They're entitled to Frogmore Cottage standing there alone and desolate, waiting for them to drop by once a blue moon. They're entitled to tax-funded security even though they don't work for the firm anymore. Just when you think they couldn't possibly get any more entitled and any more out of touch, they somehow spectacularly manage to prove each and every one of us wrong. In the article, Omid writes that the move has been described by close friends who are always unnamed as a cruel punishment and an attempt by the royal family to cut out the Sussexes for good. I mean, just listen to this gaslighting. This is prime level gaslighting. Clearly, Omid's been learning from his master, Prince Harry.
You accuse members of your family of racism. You don't even...
Well, the British press said that.
Right.
And it's classic. This is classic behavior from people like this, flipping the narrative and placing themselves in the position of victim who's done nothing wrong to deserve such cruel treatment. First of all, let's not pretend this is cruel, because it's not. Even if it's in retaliation, it's not cruel. You don't live there. You don't even live in the country. In fact, you hate the country. By your very own admission, you dedicated an entire episode on Netflix to crapping all over your country and its people and its monarchy and everything it stands for. And now you're pretending your butt hurt over being told that, hey, listen, Prince Andrew lives in the UK, in case you didn't know. He lives within the royal fold, and we need to downsize so he gets Frogmore Cottage. You don't have a say anymore. You don't own the property, you're renting it. Landlords can kick out tenants all the time. Guess what? It happens every single day to people who don't deserve it, to people who don't have a mansion to run off to people who would literally be rendered homeless should this happen. And this not only happens every day, it happened at an exponential rate during the pandemic, to the point where governments had to step in and put a moratorium on evictions. That's cruelty. And that's something that the two of you will never, ever have to go through. And then to take the gaslighting a notch further, excuse me, I'm sorry, who cut off who from the family? Are we supposed to pretend that you guys didn't just up and leave? So I guess we're supposed to pretend that that never happened because Meghan and Harry dictate reality, tyrants that they are, and they get to rewrite history. I need an ice pack. I need an ice pack because my brain is jamming. And there's more. Apart from the gaslighting, Omid has taken another leaf out of Meghan and Harry's book and threw in a thinly veiled threat. In one paragraph he writes, "But despite the risks and the prospect of grandchildren Archie and Lilibet not being able to visit in the future, King Charles is sticking firm to his eviction notice." I mean, I say it's a threat. It's a really poor attempt at a threat, because how is it a threat to say that King Charles may not see his grandchildren when that's just the status quo? When has he actually gotten to spend time with these two children, especially Lilibet? I bet he barely got a glimpse of her during the Jubilee last year. So maybe go back to the drawing board and come up with something a little bit more convincing, because I'm gonna score that an F. The hidden meaning here that obviously Omid Scobie doesn't want you to get, he just wants you to understand they're stunned and they've been so hard done. But the true meaning of this article is Meghan and Harry are shocked that there are actual consequences, God forbid, to their horrific, vile, treacherous actions. I mean, someone arranged for a welfare check over to Montecito, because this must be really shocking to the couple. As a normal human, I just can't understand feeling that entitled to things they haven't even worked for, things that they abandoned willingly. Omid says that this isn't the first time they've discussed Frogmore Cottage in Harry's absence. Apparently, William was eyeing it before he moved into Adelaide Cottage with his family nearby. But the gall, right? The audacity of the royal family to discuss the future of Frogmore Cottage in the absence of someone who literally up and left and flew across the Atlantic in a private jet to get away from said family, and who continues to throw bombs across the Atlantic. Except they're not really landing too well anymore, are they? But they're actually butthurt over the fact that the family has discussions in Harry's absence, which is 363 days a year? I mean, the nerve. Didn't they know that the whole world is meant to come to a halt until His Highness Prince Harry decides to grace them with his presence? They must have missed the memo, because I know I sure did. They are so out of touch with reality, and this is proof that no matter what backlash they receive, they never learn. Because here they are doing it again, and you better bet your bottom dollar that they're gonna do it again in the future. In fact, this entire eviction cruelty is probably gonna make it into another chapter in Harry's paperback version of his book. Or maybe Meghan's memoir, which we all know is coming. It's like a disease, you know, they're malignant in their narcissism and their entitlement and their forced victimhood. Because try as they may, it's not coming across as believable, this victimhood act. In fact, it's probably the #1 thing that's put off pretty much the entire globe now. And just to top it off, you know, a little cherry on top of this rotten, reeking entitlement cake. It looks like Meghan may have resorted to her favorite dial-a-pap service again, just to prove that we're so happy, we're so fine, we're so rich and bougie. Look at us while we go out and get photographed with a frozen smile on her face, by the way. Which, what is up with that? That's concerning. I think I've said before in a video, the more frozen of a grin Meghan has on her face, the more concerned her loved ones ought to be. Because the way I see it, she's going through such extreme lengths to prove that she's okay, which most likely means that she's really not. And why would she be? Her entire empire, her delusions of grandeur, they're all crashing down around her and that hapless husband of hers. You know, people may say, oh, they're rich, they have it all. Money doesn't buy you happiness, doesn't buy you dignity, and it certainly doesn't buy you popularity. Speaking of which, I'm gonna go have coffee with people that I love and respect and who are very popular in my eyes. I hope you all have a few of those in your life, so have a great weekend. Bye-bye.